So Bioware is in the news again, huh? And as always, not for reasons that will excite anyone. I feel like every couple of months, there's a new report that suggests how doomed Bioware is, and it's just sad to see this happening because Bioware helped rekindle my love for gaming. You know, in the mid to late 2000s, I sort of gave up on gaming to focus on my studies, on getting a job, and all of that boring adult life stuff. Around 2013, I finally had a stable job and some disposable income and decided to get back into gaming. So, I bought myself an ultra-slim PlayStation 3 for dirt cheap, even though the PS4 and the Xbox One were already out, and played a shit ton of 7th generation bangers, one after the other. Among them, the Mass Effect trilogy absolutely blew me away. I love those games so much that when I finished them for the first time, I immediately replayed them all. Around that time, Dragon Age Inquisition was about to release, and I realized that Bioware had another original IP focused on a dark fantasy setting. I played them all, and again, loved them all, and played all 3 games immediately after my first run just to experience different characters and outcomes. I poured hundreds of hours of my life into Bioware RPGs between 2014 and 2015, and really thought they were undisputed RPG royalty, and then, well, you know.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
It was in 2017 that I actually considered starting a gaming channel for the first time, because making fun of Mass Effect Andromeda just seemed so much fun. Of course, we would then find out that Andromeda wasn't an anomaly, but almost an inevitability considering its development, something which would soon after happen again with Anthem. In fact, it has been made clear by Jason Schreier's great reporting on Bioware that Dragon Age Inquisition being as good as it was already sort of a miracle. Taking that into account, it's safe to say that Bioware has been in disarray for a decade, or a third of its lifetime, so who's to blame?
EA Games.
Challenge everything.
It's easy to point at EA as the evil mastermind behind Bioware's downfall, but that would not cover the whole issue. After all, Andromeda came out almost a decade after EA bought Bioware, and some Bioware classics like Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age Origins were made already under EA. Sure, EA was responsible for Dragon Age 2's crazy short dev cycle, but they did let Bioware postpone the release dates for both Mass Effect 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition, with the latter getting a whole extra year for its development. It wasn't EA that wasted 3 years of Andromeda's development cycle sitting on their asses and then crunching for 18 months to release something. We now know EA also didn't force Bioware to make Frostbite their only in-house engine. Bioware made that call, and since then, they have backtracked on their decision, and although Dreadwolf is being developed on Frostbite, the next Mass Effect will be made on Unreal. EA has also dropped the live service mandate on Dragon Age Dreadwolf and has seemingly let Bioware take its sweet time with the game. So yeah, EA isn't solely to blame for the state of Bioware. So is Bioware to blame for the current state of Bioware? Yeah, I guess so. Taking a look at the crazy turnover that company has experienced ever since Anthem flopped is a pretty good indicator that things are not going well internally. It was especially odd for me when Casey Hudson, the creator of the Mass Effect series who left the company in 2014, gloriously returned to Bioware in late 2017, only to leave 3 years later. Yeah, that was weird. It almost felt like he was traumatized by what he saw happen to Andromeda and decided to return to try and save his baby, giving some guidance on what the fuck could be done to Mass Effect going forward, getting the Legendary Edition greenlit, and also making sure the original trilogy wasn't bastardized when re-released. And when he felt everything was sort of in order, he ran as fast as he could. And I guess we are witnessing the same thing again with Dreadwolf. Mike Laidlaw quit Bioware after the original Dragon Age 4 project was cancelled so that its team could help save Anthem, and he never returned. But Mark Darrah stuck around until 2020, when he also quit. However, he has rejoined the production of Dreadwolf in 2023 as a consultant, which I guess means he has a bunch of lost and confused people at Bioware sending emails and text messages to him every day asking for help, and he now feels obliged to answer instead of ignoring them. Both cases show to me that these seasoned developers only stick around because of passion for the worlds they have created and want to protect. There doesn't seem to be any loyalty or love for the company. On the opposite, especially for Dara. But look, Bioware bleeding talent is one thing. They can't keep those big names, those seasoned developers forever. It's natural. Even if working conditions and the company culture are great, people will eventually want to branch out and start IPs that they actually own. That's inevitable. What really got me worried was seeing that now Bioware veterans aren't willingly leaving the company because its working conditions and culture are bad, as many did when the original DA4 was cancelled. They're getting fired. Can you imagine firing one of the last few original writers involved in the creation of the franchise you are currently working on, so that you can be more agile and focused? Really? It really saddens me to see this. So many writers and creative heads at Bioware had already jumped ship, and you're going to get rid of the few who are still around because you have to pay them marginally more than you would an inexperienced kid you can hire to replace them? Really? That really gets me worried for the future, man. But story-wise, I'm not really worried about Dreadwolf, because the direction of the story was made clear in Trespasser, so yeah, that aspect of the game should be fine. The gameplay, however, might be an issue. From 2018 to 2021, Dreadwolf was being developed as a live service game, so the bones of the game are likely grindy and shitty, and if the leaks that we saw back in 2022 are any suggestion, the tactical aspect of Origins and Inquisition has been thrown out the window yet again. But still, I'm a story-first kind of guy, so I feel like I'll enjoy Dreadwolf regardless. The future Mass Effect is a bit more up in the air, but like I said before, I have this unshakable feeling that Hudson returned to Bioware just to give some guidance and structure and outline for the future of the series. However, Bioware's messy internal structure hasn't been fixed as we continue to see high staff turnover, which is never good for long-term projects like game development. To make things worse, the same sort of practices that have derailed some of their projects in the past are still a thing now. For instance, it was reported in late March that the Mass Effect team would help get Dreadwolf over the line, since the next Mass Effect is still in pre-production with a small core team, which enabled this to happen. How fortuitous. So, you're telling me that the next Mass Effect is still in pre-production, even though it was announced in late 2020? This means that for the past 3 years, only a small team has been working on it. And obviously, since the larger team is now committed to Dreadwolf, the next Mass Effect can't really get going until Dreadwolf ships, which allegedly won't happen until late 2024 or even early 2025. Do you know what this reminds me of? The production of fucking Dreadwolf. If we look at the dates and facts, the next Dragon Age quotation marks has been in development for almost a decade. But that's not true. It's been rebooted twice now, once in 2018 and another time in 2021. So what looks like forever, in actuality will have been 3 years of full-on development when the game finally arrives. And we are witnessing the same thing with the next Mass Effect as well. It's been allegedly in the works since 2020, but its development will keep moving at a snail's pace until 2025 or whenever Dreadwolf ships. Then we'll probably get 3 years of rushed development to get something out the door in maybe 2029. Yeah, we are probably going to get a decent Dragon Age 4, and we might also get a Mass Effect that's better than Andromeda. I don't think these will reach the heights of what came before, but they will keep Bioware afloat throughout the 2020s, despite messy development cycles yet again. So try to wrap your head around the fact that these games will stay in development for almost a decade and will still somehow arrive a little undercooked and with that dreaded 75 on Metacritic. And Jason Schreier will probably be there to tell us all about it. But then, when the 2030s come around, who knows? I hate to reuse an analogy this soon since that makes the content less random and betrays the purpose of the channel, but I can't help but think of Theseus' ship once again. Bioware isn't dead, as some people might say. It isn't a zombie as well. It's still the same ship, with most of its pieces having been replaced through a revolving door of employees. However, the new pieces don't seem to have been installed all that well, so there are leaks and crappy wood, and the ship is slowly sinking. This is going to be a slow death, folks. But what can I say? I'll be there to wave Bioware goodbye when it finally happens. And that's it for this video, everyone. Sorry for the depressing tone throughout. Seeing Bioware like this just doesn't get me in the mood for funny zingers, you know. Oh well. Like and subscribe.